Hi everyone, my name is Sharad Chinbaskar and I'm the VP of Client Customer Successes here in ConnectALL. Today we're going to talk about how to use logic to control flow and create governance and maintain compliance in your value streams. This is the second part of the 5-part series that we are presenting on the 2.11 release of ConnectALL's value stream automation platform. And we will take a deep dive of how to use logic gates uh, within your value streams. Let's talk a little bit about the 2.11 itself before we get started. 2.11 of ConnectALL or ConnectALL's value stream automation platform itself sits on top of your value streams. What do I mean by sits on top of your value streams is in ConnectALL you can map, visualize, and also design your value streams using our ever expanding canvas. You can map your tools, systems, process, and enforce governance by automating your systems in your value stream. So we have an easy to use dashboard which will show you the value stream view and the list view, and it will also help you to switch the value streams based on teams. We have multiple automation types that you can configure in ConnectALL's value stream platform for synchronizing your workflows, for triggering your workflows, for monitoring your systems, and collecting the data. You will collect the data to improve analytics, to measure your system's performance, and how to get the value from your value stream management. We also have logic adapters that helps you to enforce governance within your value stream. We have managing scripts that you can write to add any complex business transformations that you want to talk about. And we have our universal adapter that can connect to multiple systems that are there in the market with a simple REST API. We will be talking about each of these concepts separately during this 5-part series, and today's focus would be on logic flow adapters. So what is a logic flow adapter? The logic flow adapter sits in between your systems to enforce governance and the process compliance. Say, for example, you have a case where you have your test running on your Tosca, and you have your features and stories implemented in Rally, and you wanted to aggregate all this data, and whenever the story is completed, whenever the testing team has completed my testing for those features, I wanted to trigger a deployment, right? So that's governance that you wanted to enforce, right? Only deploy my artifact in using Circle CI when the testing is done, when the feature implementation is complete. So you will use logic gate adapters to pull the data, to aggregate that information, and enforce the compliance of your business logic within your value stream. And we use logic adapters to enforce, to help you with your decision making, governance, help you collect the information from multiple systems so that you can generate some reports around it. You can also visualize your process. Say, for example, I have to make a condition before I go to the next step. You want to visualize that in your value stream. If you just connect with your simple flow filters, you'll not be able to visualize that particular step, the approval step in your value stream. The logic flow adapters helps you to visualize those approval conditions within the value stream itself, so that you know where is the bottleneck and you know what you need to do to improve that performance in there. You can also use it for traceability. Like I said, you can pull in all the information from multiple different systems, like your test coverage status, the security scan results, the feature implementation status, whether it is a GitHub pull request is approved or not, and all that into one particular system and track it for your traceability. And you can also enforce compliance or governance and compliance using the logic adapters. One interesting example that you can do with logic flow adapters is provisioning. Provisioning in the sense like you have a new customer, and that customer you wanted to set up an multi-tenant environment for them. So you can use the logic flow adapter saying that when my sale is approved and when I'm ready to go, and when the go ahead and create a change request and trigger my provisioning to build that particular deployment for them for that particular instance. Many of the SaaS applications right now have this on-demand instance creations. You can be using ConnectALL's logic adapters to provision all those kinds of instances and stuff like that. So this is an example I was just talking about, where you have your requirement status coming into the gate, and you have your feature completion status that is coming into the gate. The requirement coverage, nothing but your test coverage, how your QA team has, how many test cases your QA team has executed, and how does it relate to the features that were delivered from your Rally or Jira or any other system. And once both of them are success, then you can go ahead and trigger a build or a deployment in using Circle CI. So the common question I get from many customers is, we have complex workflows. How do I even get started? How do I visualize my workflows or the value streams using logic gates? Where to get started? ConnectAll's vast experience of deploying these automations helped us create some patterns, identify patterns that we help our customers with. The patterns that we cover usually are decision-making pattern, governance pattern, SOC compliance, and ITSM chart ups patterns. These patterns talk about multiple different systems in different sectors of the software delivery lifecycle, so that you know what artifacts to connect and collaborate in your value stream, and how to capture metrics and all that. What are the benefits of using patterns? Patterns help you to identify and remove waste, accelerate the time to value, and also have a control over the flow of your artifacts across your value stream. Anybody who is using any of these systems can leverage these patterns to eliminate the waste. A typical example could be whenever a service request comes into your service management system, like an incident or a problem that is reported into your service desk team, and you wanted to send it over to engineering, you want to connect those tools right now, right? So assuming my service management requests are coming into service now, and my engineering is working on Jira or Azure DevOps, I need to be able to communicate and collaborate between these systems. And we know, based on our experience, that incident management and problem management are some of the examples for these patterns that we can use to do it, right? And we can put a gate in between that to say, okay, so not all incidents have to go. I want to take a manual approval process for me to go to engineering, right? So I can put a gate in between saying that, okay, so wait for the approval to happen here before I trigger the next step. So those are the kind of patterns that you can implement using the logic gate adapters. In this use case, we are going to talk a little bit about the decision making pattern itself. So when I say decision-making pattern, what we are trying to do here is, we have engineering team who's working in Rally. We have our builds that are running on Jenkins. We have a testing team that is running their automation test suites on Tosca. And we also do sonar scans on our code base to identify hotspots, security vulnerabilities, and any CVEs that we have on the dependencies, right? So what is happening here in this specific example is, we are collecting the information from all the systems using the gate, and we are going to create a change request when the implementation is successful, when the build is successful, when the test is done successfully, and when the sonar scan results are successful. I'm going to create a new change request with all the data. What all the stories that are implemented for this change request? How many tests that are executed? What's the status of your build? Is it passed successfully, or are there any test failures in your build? Have run the security scans, and have we resolved them, right? So all that information can be aggregated, collated, and formatted when you're creating your change request so that your CAP team can now take a look at the entire set of data and say, okay, we are ready to go and deploy this in my production, right? Otherwise, pulling in all this information from all the systems and sitting on a cab review, I don't know how many of you have sit on the cab review meetings. It typically takes 60 to 90 minutes to just approve one feature request or one change request, because we have to pull in multiple systems data. Typically, it's done in Excel sheets and other forms of Word documents. But using ConnectALL's AND gate or logic gate adapters helps you collect all the data in on the fly and format it for you. So those are some of the examples that you can use in logic gates, or get benefited. So one more example I can give you is when you have when you have to trigger a build or trigger a Kubernetes pipeline. So you can say my change request is done, my performance is done, my performance testing is done. Go ahead and trigger my Kubernetes build and deploy a package in my SaaS environment. So those are some of the examples that you can do with logic gates. I hope you got what we are trying to do here. We have more that is coming up in 2.11 webinars. The next one, we are going to talk about how to improve your efficiency by creating connections automations quicker using universal adapter. We are going to talk about how to build this universal adapters really fast by connecting with the REST API of your new systems and integrating that into value streams. So any questions? Okay, looks like we do not have any questions today. And thanks for watching us today. And we'll see you next week in the third part of our 2.11 webinar series. Thanks and have a wonderful day.